Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Starved Rock Murders. I'm your host, Andy Hale. I wanted to jump on here and give everybody an update. You may have seen on my TikTok or other socials, I'm down in Florida recharging my batteries. There's going to be a lot of work to do in this coming year and the coming months, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll be back in Chicago in February. But I wanted to kind of give an update and run down where we're at with everything. So I'm going to end with the hearing, but let's just pause a minute and walk through how we got here, because I want to remind everybody how long this is and how long it's taken. And I want to give a special shout out to the Will County State's Attorney's Office. I know they are avid listeners to the podcast, so welcome, Will County State's Attorney's Office. Thank you for listening to us. So Will County was appointed as the special prosecutor to represent the state of Illinois in January of 2021. Okay, what does that mean? That means they've had the case all of 2021, all of 2022, all of 2023, and all of 2024. They've had 4 years they've worked on the case. And a state's attorney's job is to seek justice, not merely to convict, to investigate, find the truth. Okay, so what happened? Will County got appointed in January of 2021. A few months later, Celeste Stack and I had a face-to-face meeting with James Glasgow, who's the state's attorney in Will County. There were several other people there, a couple of his assistants, some investigators, multiple people. We were there for several hours. Celeste and I walked through all our evidence. We walked out of there super encouraged. I mean, Jim Glasgow was listening and he's like, wow, how old is your guy? Like, there's a sense of urgency here. And then let me tell you, something changed. I don't know what, I don't know why, but Will County's tune totally changed, because after that, we wanted to do an evidence inspection, just look at the physical evidence. Mr. Glasgow told me that he had looked at the physical evidence and it was a complete disaster. That was his words, his characterization of it. I said, well, it's a complete disaster. Why don't you let us look at it? And he said, no, I'm not going to agree to that. Well, we had to go to court. The court let us look at all the physical evidence, and in my humble opinion, it was in amazing condition. Glass slides, everything labeled, incredibly organized. So then what happened? We wanted to test some of the physical evidence. Jim Glasgow, Will County said, no, we're not going to agree to that. I had to go back to court. Court said, no, I'm going to let Mr. Hale test some of the evidence. We were allowed to do that. We were allowed to do DNA testing on a hair found on the glove of Francis Murphy. It came back to a male profile, not Chester Weger. Yet the case continued. We had to keep plowing forward. And then I sent an email in March of 2023. And I said to Will County, it looks like the only two people you've interviewed, bear in mind I've had the case now for all of 2021, all of 2022, we're now in March of 2023. The only people they had interviewed were James Murphy, who we thought may have been, and we still think may have been, the biological son of Robert Murphy. But when they interviewed him, Will County, they didn't even ask him that question. The only relevance to James Murphy is who is his biological father. They didn't even ask him that question. And they had a phone interview with David Rakulia. That's what they had done in 2+ years. Then I went back in November of 2023 and said, hey, are there any more reports? They had one more report. They had now talked to James Murphy again about the biological father issue and asked him if he'd consider doing DNA testing, and he said he'd think about it. And he hasn't agreed to this point. Fast forward. So then after we got the DNA result, we did genetic genealogy, and we found out that that hair belonged to one of 3 local brothers, those 3 Bray brothers we talked about, who were all deceased. And I wrote Will County a letter in December of 2023 asking them to vacate the conviction based on that bombshell evidence. You've got someone else's hair on the victims, and I don't think there's any credible explanation for how it got there. They didn't respond. I had to send another letter about a week later asking their position. Wouldn't agree. I sought in February of 2024 to do additional forensic testing. They opposed that. So that's where we're at. It's been 4 years. Will County's opposed to everything we've done. Um, we finally now have an evidentiary hearing. What does that mean? The judge said certain of our evidence can move forward to the third and final stage, an evidentiary hearing. The court thought it may take up to 3 days for us to present all this evidence. So the court's first available date with 3 days in a row was May 12th, May 13th, and May 14th of 2025. So that's going to be like a mini trial. We're going to put on our evidence. The state, through Will County, will have a chance to cross examine our witnesses, make whatever arguments it wants. And then ultimately, the court will decide whether we've met our burden, whether that new evidence, when you combine it with the old evidence, will be enough to probably change the trial result. Um, so Celeste and I are so looking forward to this, I'll call it this trial. We finally have a date. We finally, after all this time, have a chance to present our evidence in open court for the world to see. And we're really excited about that opportunity. And we're going to be working our tails off getting ready for it. So all I got to say is game on, game on, game on, to be continued. Thanks. And thanks for your support from everybody out there, from Chester and his family. Thank you so much for all your support. And I encourage you to come to watch the trial in May. It's open to the public. Anybody can come. Come check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks.